Welcome, fellow fans of Clash Royale. It's your host, Galadon. Yes, it's the Bandit Draft Challenge. It's underway, and we're showing some full attack clan members who are absolutely smashing it, and we're going to talk a little bit about strategy and watch their battles. So, I gotta tell you, this is not as hard as I thought it would be. On the very first try, I got 10 wins. I'm on my way. I will keep trying, and I will post in the comments or on Twitter my status as I keep struggling to try to get 12. I didn't get 12 in the last challenge like this, but we'll give this one a try. Now, what it really comes down to is just a couple of major tips. And the first one I have to say is something that is often referred to as deck synergy. Now, you only have 4 opportunities to choose the right card. You've got to really consider what you're giving away and what you're taking and see if you can't put together some synergy, a couple of cards that work together. Obviously, if you're taking one card, you don't want to be giving away on the next choice the exact counter to that card. So you'll notice here, Splash Monkey has a little bit of everything, and that's going to be the thing about these decks. Another thing, a big major point, siege decks just are probably not going to work. In order to get a mortar or an expo to work, you need to have a lot of other support cards for it. In a challenge like this, you very rarely have the opportunity to grab support cards. You're very, very limited, obviously, in what you can choose. So I have to tell you, a lot of times it feels like the battle is won or lost in the choosing of the cards, but I honestly don't feel it's that way completely. You can make cards work together. Now let's talk about the Bandit. My personal opinion right now is that a brand new card is going to have a learning curve. 2 learning curves. The learning curve to using it and the learning curve to countering it. And personally, I feel like this card, the Bandit, is going to be more difficult to learn how to use than it is to counter. All you need is a few small cards, and you're going to be able to counter the Bandit. Obviously, small, low elixir, ground cards, skeletons. Mini P.E.K.K.A. also works, but goblins and things like that. So, my personal opinion right now is, if you're given the choice of the Bandit, give it up. Give it away, unless you have seen that you don't have any good counter cards in your deck already. So right off the bat, would I take or give the Bandit? I might take it if it were the first choice. If it's the 4th choice and I already have 1 or 2 cards that are going to be good solid counters to the Bandit, then I'm definitely giving it away. I'm going to put the onus on my opponent to be the person to learn how to play the Bandit, as opposed to me just simply dropping a couple of cheap units in front of it and distracting the Bandit. Now, that doesn't always work out, but you also have to remember that I would say it looks like, from experience, about 80% of the time or more, if my opponent is given the opportunity of choosing the Bandit, they choose it. I mean, maybe it's the mentality of, oh, it's a legendary and they're going to take it. I don't know. But people very surprised when you hand them the Bandit. Now, Splash Monkey handed Mehmet the loss, and that was Splash's 12th win. So let's watch Arrow as he chooses which cards to keep. Poison or lightning, that's a tough call. Now, I generally give away arrows. I'm not a big fan of the arrows, and especially if I know my opponent has them. There, Arrow gives away the arrows. Here's a furnace. Definitely a big fan of the furnace. And then right here, you've given your opponent arrows. So do you want the minion horde? Probably not. Good choice by Arrow, giving away the minion horde. That's exactly what we're talking about. You want to give away those cards that you have given the direct counter to, and at least you know it's there. The furnace going to be a pretty good counter to the other cards in the deck, like the minion horde. So right away, the Hog Rider moves in, gets only a single shot on the tower. Arrow was given, it looks like, Goblin Barrel, Witch, also the Elixir Collector. That is generally a card I'm going to keep, unless maybe there's something major on the other side. But generally, I'm going to try to keep the Elixir Collector, and I also feel like big tank units are great. Now, I'm not seeing a lot of them in these replays, but the Lava Hound and the Golem, if you have those cards, and obviously you're not handing over an Inferno Tower and things like that, those are generally good cards. There's other cards, like I said before, that are really, really bad. Cards that you don't want by themselves. Because a Golem or a Lava Hound, It does benefit from support, but it doesn't require support to get to the tower. An Expo, a mortar, if you don't have the right cards, that card is going to get little or no damage on your opponent. So in goes the Goblin Barrel. Now, Fatanzio does have the arrows, but they weren't quite ready. And Arrow, before the arrows, gets that Goblin Barrel in. And now we've got a close game on the left-hand side. The Bandit, I love that move right there, dropping the Prince right in front of the Bandit. So the Bandit never got the charge in, and the Minion Horde does not stop the charge of the Prince. And beautifully right here, of course, the Furnace just annihilating that Minion Horde. So I would say on my list of cards to give or take, cards that I will always take right now in this draft challenge, I will always take the Elixir Collector, the Golem, and the Lava Hound. Cards that I will always give away, the Expo and the Mortar. Cards that I'm surprisingly really liking right now as Arrow grabs a crown is the Barb Hut. Really liking the Barb Hut right now. Having a lot of luck with that in the challenges. It's a great unit to use to help stall just about anything that's coming at you. So now goes the Poison Spell, but you'll notice that Arrow's opponent hasn't done anything to damage those Elixir Collectors, and that has just given Arrow a huge Elixir advantage. Final 30 seconds, and again, this is win number 12 right here. So Arrow just about to unlock his own Bandit. Things are out of control. He's got the Elixir Collector down, the Furnace as well. This game is all but over. Well done by Arrow, just protecting the left side, you know, getting a little bit nervous in that last 11th win, 12th win, trying to get it down. And again, the Bandit easily countered by all these small cards. You'll notice that Arrow had a lot of great counters to the Bandit. Again, I'm going to advise, give it up. Don't keep it. Just get rid of it. A little bit of BM there from Arrow at the end. Maybe he was complimenting his opponent on the well played in the poison, counteracting the Prince. But congrats, Arrow. BM or no BM, he unlocks the Bandit. All right, let's move on to Metab. This is our Sparky Expert in full attack, and this is a tough choice. Inferno Dragon, I'm almost always going to give the Inferno Dragon away. Here we go. Always give the Mortar away. Good choice right there. Gets rid of the Mortar, and that was, I would say, a good call. I'm not a fan of the Mirror card simply because you rarely have a choice over a lot of your different cards. So the Mirror, now you guys might see a battle from me later in a couple of days that shows an amazing use of the Mirror and the Clone Spell, but that's just, I just got lucky. All right, so Metab forcing his opponent to play a bit of a siege deck. He's got the Inferno Dragon in there, a couple of weird defensive. He's got the Inferno Tower and the Tesla. So a couple of Infernos and the Rocket. Interesting deck composition, but that's the thing you're always going to find in these draft challenges is just really bizarre deck comps. Right there, Metab's Inferno Dragon going to work, absolutely melting, and the Bandit gets to the tower. Notice that the opponent had nothing to stop that Bandit, and that tower just annihilated. Again, something we're seeing a lot of is these 1-0 advantages early on, because these weird odd pushes where the opponent doesn't have the selection, you don't have the choice. So you've got to be super careful about the 4 cards you're picking and be very aware of what your opponent has given you and try to put something together. Again, deck synergy, meaning a couple of cards that will interact well together. And right here, Metab just dominating. That King's Tower badly damaged, trying to drop the Bandit by herself. Not usually going to work. She's going to be kind of like the Prince or the Inferno Dragon, not a unit that's going to have much success if it's out on its lonesome. And again, you guys, when you're playing these decks, I would say another key, patience. Again, as always, now slow playing is always good, letting that elixir build up. But especially early on when you have no idea what your opponent has, you may have accidentally created a great synergy for your opponent's deck by what you gave him. You never know. But with a few simple tips like keeping big tanks, giving away siege, and maybe letting your opponent try to figure out how to use the Bandit, it seems like these wins are pouring in for players from full attack. And I haven't given up yet in the first challenge. Like I said, I went 10 before I lost 3. We will keep going. There goes the defensive mortar, just desperation time at this point. And the Rocket for the first time rearing its ugly head right on the King's Tower and the mortar. And this one's pretty much over, you guys. 30 seconds left. One more Rocket, and it's going to be a 3-crown win and an unlock of the Bandit for Metab. Again, you guys, I am going to suggest dropping the Bandit in most cases. Again, first priority has to be what you have in exchange for the Bandit. Second priority, I would generally give it away and let my opponent try to figure out how to use it, and I will always know how to counter it if I've got the cards. So there's Metab, also unlocking the Bandit. Wish me luck, you guys. I hope you guys have luck as well in unlocking the Bandit card. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of this video. Make sure you subscribe for the earliest possible update and sneak peek information into those next new cards. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I hope to see you all back here again tomorrow for more full attacks.